The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers Cable or Rogers TV.
Hi, and welcome to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Rick Byers, the MPP for Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound. And Rick, it's always good to have you here. Are you here or in Sound, or are you down in Queen's Park today?
No, I am here today, and house is sitting again next week. Then the week it's been on and off, but we're sitting until kind of mid-June, and then full-time here in the riding.
Right. So you'll come home for the summer in a bit, and but you won't stop working.
No, people say, well, I hear you're going to go on a break. And no, there's no breaks. It's just a relocation. And the challenge when the house is sitting, of course, is you know, from Monday to Thursday, you're very focused down there and making sure you're also in touch with activities and priorities in the riding. So it's going to be great to be able to focus, 100% on that part of the job over the summer months, and look forward to attending lots of events and keeping connected with priorities of the great community of Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound.
Absolutely. And boy, have we ever got some priorities. Because let's kick it right off the top with the whole situation in Durham. The hospital, South Bruce-Grey Health Corporation, has moved the 10 beds from the Durham Hospital. Half have gone to Walkerton, half have gone to the Kincardine Hospital. And I happen to work in Durham, and oh my goodness, people are not happy, Rick. People are not happy. But you attended the public meeting recently at the community center, which was packed. But what's your take on the situation?
Well, and it was great to be to attend the meeting. I mean, look, you've identified correct. It's a huge issue in the community, and they haven't moved the beds yet. The South Bruce-Grey Health Center has announced that will be intended to be happening on June 3rd, so several weeks from now. And I sure wanted to be at the meeting to, most importantly, hear the concerns and sentiments of the community, and also give a few thoughts that I had, and I was pleased to do that. And look, I know this has a big impact on the community. You saw that firsthand, and you know it, and certainly appreciate and understand the challenge that it's created. And this has been going on in the broader, well, including Chesley, since really the fall of 2019. There's been variable hours in the facilities there, and what the health center management and board were intending to do is provide some greater certainty over the operation of the hours of operation of the Durham facility. And due to staffing challenges they've had ongoing and expected over the summer, they said, look, if we transfer these beds elsewhere, that'll allow us to give more certainty to the ongoing hours of the operation of the Durham facility. So that was the reason for their decision. But this hasn't been easy for them either, those involved in the health center. And I acknowledge that at the meeting. It's challenging decisions. And so look forward to doing whatever I can to, and meet whoever. I'm happy to meet whoever to see if we can provide more stability to the outcome here.
Well, how do you respond to people who say, look, I had to go into the Durham hospital after hours, like in the middle of the night. I had a heart attack. The doctor told me that if I had gone to Hanover or Markdale or Mount Forest, I wouldn't be here today. And that's not an exceptional situation, because it's puzzling. It's just, I know there's an economic argument, but there is a community safety argument as well. Are we going to hear that? And I haven't heard anything that be addressed either.
Well, so I'm going to deal with two parts of what your issue you brought up. You said there's an economic argument. This is not about the financial numbers. The financial support for the South Bruce-Grey Health Center has been there. They noted that in their announcement. This is about the ongoing challenges with health human resources staffing in the region. That's what it's about. And as I said, it's been going on for 4.5 years. Look, we've done a number of things, and please, healthcare is a priority for our caucus. We've done a number of things, and I mentioned those at the meeting. There's 3 new medical schools which have opened or are opening. There's a huge emphasis on nursing education. We've seen that with Georgian College firsthand in the Owen Sound community, and supported by Learn and Stay grants. So the intention of those programs is to have health professionals educated in the community, and that means they'll more likely stay in the community. And we've evolved a whole bunch of services to pharmacies to take some of the pressure off emergency departments. So a whole range of things. Now, look, I just mentioned those. If they were all working perfectly, we wouldn't be having this challenge with South Bruce-Grey. But the other element I mentioned at the meeting is you look at Hanover Hospital, they've borne some pressure from these closures. They've remained open the whole time. Bright Shores, 6 hospitals, including smaller and more rural, they've maintained opening all the time. So there's some unique operating challenges that have existed with the network at South Bruce-Grey Health Center, and they're looking at those issues. But to your point about if there are 911, if there are severe health issues that arise, 911's the answer. That's the answer today. It has been the answer before. The paramedics will pick you up and take you to the best place. And so that's an important part of this, is that urgent emergency care availability through 911 is unchanged through this announcement.
Sure. You made I just referred to a moment ago, but in the meeting, you made a very important point that this hasn't happened in other health corporations, Bright Shores, other hospital corporations elsewhere in the region. It's happened elsewhere in Ontario for sure. Minden is a good example. Minden and Haliburton is a good example of that. But there are other places for sure. Do you think that I mean, I'm not involved in the decision making, but you made a point about, well, they're doing it. What's the difference? And I guess only the board can answer that question.
Well, that's why I referenced to what may be, and listen, I'm not in healthcare operations, and that's why I acknowledged and thanked the South Bruce-Grey Health Center for their ongoing work. This is not easy for anyone, be it on the board or management or others. And so all I was signaling is some of these broader, and Hanover is a single facility. Okay, and one of the challenges I have heard is hiring into a multi-site facility. By the way, South Bruce-Grey Health Center was a pioneering model, and I heard that at the meeting, and I hadn't really appreciated it. They came together, 25 or so years ago, and I understand that was one of the first examples of a multi-site healthcare corporation. Why? To bring efficiencies of operations that you could, having maneuver benefits. So they've been a leader there. Hanover chose to stay out of that model at the time. And so as a single site operator, they have some advantages in being able to say, hey, come and work only here. And Bright Shores as well, even a 6-site operation, they have the heft of the Owen Sound Hospital. And so, there's that perhaps perceived greater broader organization where there may be other opportunities. So I say that only to say that there are examples of others that are around. I know that South Bruce-Grey has looked at those, and so that'll be part of the ongoing consideration of the nature of the services provided in the community.
Do you expect the Ministry of Health will become involved at all?
Well, look, I've been in regular discussions with the minister about this, and made the premier aware as well, and so that's part of what I've been doing. They're very, very well aware of this. At the end of the day, these are operating decisions of the South Bruce-Grey Health Center. But look, the province of Ontario is the one responsible for healthcare, and so there's certainly and that's why I made the comments at the meeting about the things the province has done. But again, obviously there is more to do because of the reduced hours here. And again, the biggest concern I understand South Bruce Grey Health Center had was the variability of hours. And so to your earlier example about someone with an emergent or urgent issue that they want to get dealt with, when the hours were changing frequently, that's frankly a more challenging and even riskier environment. So the goal of the organization was say we want to set hours with more certainty, and yes, that may involve moving the beds out, but that's the goal here, so that people know when the facility is available and when they have to look to another site. So that's the purpose of it, and it's directed, no doubt, to ensure as much as possible the certainty of hours and therefore the certainty of health treatment.
I find it really helpful. You made the point that these are operational decisions, and one of the themes that I have continually, I won't say hammered at, but I've continually raised with you and with others is that there's a difference between operations and governance. And governance is the board's job. Operations is the administration's job, and they meet through the CEO and through presentations and make decisions. But these are, and you're right, these are tough decisions. These are very tough decisions.
Yes, they are, and no doubt the board would have been aware of the impact it had on the community, and they've been very clear that it's been a shortage of healthcare staffing that's driven them, and that's where, look, I get it. That's where the province is directly involved in this, and again, I'm 100% convinced that the measures we are putting in place for education and whatnot will fundamentally increase the supply of health human resources in the province, and over time get us back to where we were. Those are long-term solutions which are needed. However, the challenge is they're not fixing things tomorrow. And so we have this urgency that's needed right away. And so this is why we're, very much involved in keeping Ministry of Health aware of what's happening in the community. That's what I'm doing. See if there's solutions out there, talk to others, and see what we can do to provide the level of healthcare to Durham and other communities that they deserve.
Sure. And I think it's also helpful to remember that the solutions will not be quick. It's 4 years to train an RN, and 7 or 8, even 9 for a doctor.
Yeah, no, these are longer term. I will say that we're seeing results, though. I think the number is last year 17,000 nurses were hired in the province, and I think there's something like 30,000 in the education program. So the numbers have really risen up, and the nursing education has started earlier. The Georgian program has been up and running for a while, and the great thing about that program is nursing students are getting involved in providing some healthcare, and as well, when you're learning locally, there's a much higher likelihood of staying locally. So that's where we're gaining comfort that those things will happen. But clearly, people are leaving with those big numbers entering the professions. People are leaving as well. Been through COVID, and there's burnout and there's strain. So we can't just understand that and see what we can do to reduce that departure level, but more importantly, increase the supply. The other thing, by the way, we've done is certifications for doctors and nurses from outside of Ontario. And that's been a little while ago that process was sped right up, because we don't want doctors and nurses doing other things if we can have them operating within the healthcare system.
It's interesting. Part of it is our own getting used to a different model. I'll use COVID shots as an example, and flu shots. I would always go to my doctor, and my doctor would, I'd go in and see the doctor or call and walk in, whoop, get the flu shot, get the COVID, not the COVID shot, but get the flu shot. But most recently, I went to my pharmacist. And, okay, I know my pharmacist. They know me. They've known me for years. It's just a little different. And, okay, it's a little different. And we often have trouble or difficulty getting used to different sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's a great point you make. And that's exactly why we put that expanded service availability at pharmacists for the points you made. Let's make sure doctors are available to, do the more serious / urgent stuff that they need to focus on. And you're absolutely right. Change is the other thing that's also involved in healthcare is technology changes. I know when the Markdale Hospital was first announced, there was a concern over the number of beds there. I think it was 12 or 13 in the old facility, and now it's 8. But this is in part a significant part of the evolution of technology. What you needed a bed for decades ago, you can go in for day surgery now, and you're in your own bed, which is a better outcome and reduces the needs in the facility. So that's part of the evolution too, and one of the great things about having a new facility there in the community. So there's a lot of changes. You're absolutely right. And we also, I think the other thing to point out is, and I hear this frequently in rural communities, hey, I don't have a family doctor. And that's the other thing we've been doing is, increasing that focus on primary care in the post-COVID. And one of the new medical schools will be dedicated to family medicine. So again, that's there to, free up the capacity for the hospitals. But, again, those are the long-term right solutions. The challenge, though, is they're not there tomorrow. And that's why we also have to look at short-term and immediate responses to the situation as well.
Well, I noticed even in this morning's newspaper, there was a big announcement from Trillium Healthcare, which is in Mississauga. They're opening, they've had a benefactor donate money, and they're opening a mother and child health clinic, which is desperately needed, particularly in that area. I should know, I grew up there. But it's, that's the kind of change that is happening on a rapid rate.
Absolutely right. It's a great example. I saw that too. And it's great for people in the community making those very significant investments in partnership with the province. And so that kind of activity and priority will continue here. It needs to. Our investment in healthcare has gone from the last 2 years from 75 billion to 85 billion per year, huge share of the provincial spending, about 40%, as it needs to. And so it'll remain a priority. But there'll also be changes, as you've mentioned, as there need to be, and we'll continue with those. And the goal of it all is to provide the appropriate healthcare and better healthcare for Ontarians, including in communities like Durham. And that's where all can keep working and make sure we can do whatever we can to make sure that happens.
Speaking of healthcare, I noticed that there was a major announcement this week concerning youth mental health, and Keystone getting a huge amount of money, $2.5 million for youth healthcare to build up their capacity. What's the hope there?
Well, I'm glad, it's great. I was thrilled to see that announcement confirmed, and it was to your earlier point about the evolution of the needs in the community. This is a big investment to help the youth get the healthcare and mental health services that they need now to help them out, which again decades ago wasn't the same kind of need. So I'm thrilled. Keystone has been a great partner and a great operator, and so this will have a big impact in our community, and so very, very pleased to see that announcement having been made, and looking forward to see the results and the support for our youth and their mental health needs in the community going forward. It'll be very exciting.
Well, I know from personal experience that youth mental health has kind of gotten the short end of the stick, and has for years here in Grey Bruce. And I mean, if a young person needed, believe it or not, needed psychiatric treatment, they had to go to London. So let's hope this brings some improvement. the system. And speaking of mental health, do you have anything that you can share about the Bright Shores Wellness and Recovery Center? I've heard, okay, it's coming in January. Then it was February. Now it's May. What's okay? I'm glad I'm not a betting person. I'll tell you that.
Well, I'm like you, very much looking forward to that facility being open. I don't have a date, but I think it's not too far away, and really, really excited about that. Will have a big impact in the community too. Again, looking at a kind of a a new type of facility for right in the community, and as I've learned more about the services that will be offered and the nature of the facility itself, it is so exciting. And so looking forward to that. And I think that this is the other thing that our government has done, is got a associate minister of mental health. Hasn't happened before. And so that is and Minister Tabolo is fantastic. He's been in the industry for a long, long time. He knows it, and he's visited the facility, he is certainly aware and very involved in the production of that facility. There was an event elsewhere and where I learned more about the specifics. So he'll be there, I'm sure. And we'll keep working at this area, because you're absolutely right. This is supporting the youth with mental health challenges is a priority for us. And I'm thrilled that and the community for their mental health issues as well. I'm delighted with the investments that we continue to make.
Well, I certainly will look forward to that announcement, because we've been watching it. You drive by it and you see the construction, you see the changes. Okay, when's the ribbon cutting? But yeah, we'll watch out for Minister Tabolo showing up and saying all the good things, as well as yourself. But I know that there's a lot of people that are saying, okay, when is this opening? When is this opening? But you're right. It's a pioneering place. I think it's a completely new model that we have not used in Ontario before. Been used in Europe, but not Ontario. So
no, you're exactly right. And I've heard a little bit about this. And when I first heard that, I was really, wow, isn't that great to have that kind of, it's not a brand new model. It's being used elsewhere. So the model, there's high confidence of its effectiveness, but to have it here for the first time is very, very exciting.
Absolutely. Well, maybe the next time that we talk, we'll be able to say it's here.
Yes.
Okay.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Now, I will tell you, your predecessor, Bill Walker, and I had a ongoing, it became a joke about the Markdale Hospital. And this went on for several years. So, Rick, I'm going to hold you to the fact this is not the Markdale Hospital, okay?
Yes, that is right.
Right.
We sure expected to be online quicker than that. So
absolutely.
You can hold me to that. Yeah.
Okay. Hey, I just got a commitment out of a politician.
Imagine that.
Even better. Even better. Okay, let's move on to actually there's a bit of a, let's say, a joke, but the inside story to this. The province has made some grants regarding local emergency preparedness and response, and there was a budget here in the city. There was a budget line under the police services for drones, $50,000. And the chief said, "Oh no, don't worry. This drone is something that we've applied a grant for, and if we get it, it'll be there. So it's not going to cost us anything." And someone said, and I might have been Councillor Brock Hamley, who said, "What kind of a drone is this? Is this one of those things that you fly around and you have a little fun with?" And the chief said, "No, this is much, much more sophisticated than that." So I see the grant has come through.
Yes, and it's great to be supporting our fantastic local police team with this kind of investment in technology, and because that's it's a great potential enhancement of their capabilities and the tools they have to do the great policing work that they do. So great to see that having coming through. And, the Solicitor General is so impressed with our Owen Sound Police team. He's told me on a number of occasions all the great things they're doing, and I certainly see that too. I don't meet with them enough, and need to do that more. But really, really appreciate all the great things that are doing in our community, because they're evolving, challenging in the world of policing these days as well, with a whole range of issues. So to have that investment is terrific.
Well, I think we've got a very forward-looking police chief who has worked well with partners, and I'm hearing good things, and it's nice to see the province stepping up to assist. He also gave money, went to Aaron Eldersley and North Bruce Peninsula. I'm not sure what that money was for, but let's just say it wasn't just to Owen Sound.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where we've got a big community here, and we whatever we can, we want to have support going all over Grey Bruce, and so it's great to see that as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a challenge. While we may not have the issues of, let's say, car thefts here, and I'm touching wood because I drive a truck and I don't want it stolen.
Touch wood.
But by the same token, we have other issues, and the government seems to be doing some stepping up to support police paramedic services for these kinds of issues as well.
That's exactly right, because each community is going to have its own somewhat different priorities and somewhat different needs, and so that's part of the challenge as well, to make sure that we're working with those community organizations and police organizations to support their needs as they see them in their own community and area.
Well, here's a question that just occurred to me. One of the things that has been a challenge is your government has made it, or it's been an issue, and previous governments as well, is the shortage of judges. Is there anything the province is doing to increase the number of judges on the bench, or is that a federal responsibility alone?
Well, there are federal judges needed, and the provincial has their own, a network of judges and extensive network. And we are this is something I've heard directly, is that everything in this world post-COVID has had some strains in terms of getting through and getting things back to the service levels that they were experienced before. But we've heard a number of serious cases running into, the deadlines. And there's a principle that was introduced by the, I think the Canadian Superior Court, and putting out a 30-month timeline on some of these cases. And the challenge that we have here is to make sure that some of the very, very important cases get heard before, frankly, an artificial timeline. So we're doing whatever we can to invest in the system to speed up. The justice system will run itself. That's what crowns and defense lawyers and judges and everyone does. But we need to make sure we continue to provide the supports there so that these cases get heard and go to trial as they should. Yeah.
Well, it's an ongoing issue, and certainly it's something for, I'm sure, a conversation. But at this point, we've got to take a break, Rick, and we'll be back about 90 seconds. And so don't go away. We'll be back. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
This is Rogers TV.
October 5th, 2014, my daughter was hit by a train. She was walking along the sides of the tracks, and it shattered her world.
Hi, and welcome back to Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. My guest today is Rick Byers, the MPP for Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound. And we've been talking about all kinds of good things like healthcare and policing and judges and goodness knows what. So, Rick, it's always good to have you back.
Well, it's great to be here and really appreciate the discussion with you all the time, David. Thank you.
Now, one of the other things I noticed was that the government is supporting transit in Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound with over $1 million in gas tax funding. Now, this is a regular program, as I recall. It's not something that there's a formula and so on and so forth, but it's government support for public transit, correct?
Yeah, and this has been I think it's been, you know what? There's always some silver linings from COVID, I suppose, that we can look to. And I think transit's one of them. And not only in the community here in Owen Sound, but also among the various municipalities in Grey County through Grey Route Transit. The growth of the transit service within the region has been a terrific outcome here. And we're doing whatever we can. This is part of the funding, and we'll hope to get more ongoing committed funding to keep that service going, because in rural communities, we need people primarily getting on and around in their own vehicles, but having that support for transit and seeing how it's grown over the last few years is great to see. So that's a great development, and we'll hope to keep that going.
Yeah, and I know that there were some cuts at the Grey County level. The Grey County Transit had to cut a route or two, but it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I was actually over in Wasaga Beach recently, and they were saying that the problem over there is that there is no transit or very little transit, and people can't even get to something like the food bank. And the community is kind of isolated. Here, it's probably true too. People can't get to the services they need. And although I have to say, the buses now run by my door with the Alpha Street Hill rebuilding that's going on, and I see more people on the bus here in Owen Sound.
And I've taken it several times now, and the regional one. I haven't actually been on the Owen Sound Transit, but I see those buses all over, and I think it's great that they are. You're right that there are more passengers on them on a regular basis, and that's great because it is so important for the community. And this is something that the folks in the urban communities have a huge transit network that they can access. And it's different here, and so to the extent we can keep, supporting that, keep seeing to try and grow it. I had heard some chatter about, who knows, because I know there was bus service, large bus service from Owen Sound down to Orangeville, I think, in years past. And it would be great it's great that Grey Transit Route does that route now and whatnot, but. I'm a big believer in transit. I was on the board of Toronto Transit Commission and Metrolinx for a few years, so I saw it firsthand there, and it's so great to see the growth of transit in the Grey Bruce community.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think that Flixbus is coming to Owen Sound, and their goal is to recover some of the old Grey Coach Line routes, and to have a bus to Toronto. And I'm not sure the details yet, but it'll be announced in probably the next few months. But it's going to be an addition to the regional transit, and certainly, hopefully, that will be very useful. I mean, people do use those buses for all kinds of things.
Exactly, and I had heard that that extensive service potentially. I don't think it's been announced formally yet, but it would be so great to have that kind of, because as you know, again, as the regional transit and on Sound Transit continues to grow, that would support that long-term that link to the GTA and allow commercial providers of the service to get more comfort on the passenger numbers, because that's what it's all about. How many passengers are in your vehicle? Can you make the economics work? And so having this additional networks within the region has been helpful in allowing them to see what the traffic would potentially be if that bus service was reestablished again. So it's great to see.
Yeah. Well, who knows? We just don't know what the future holds. But oh, yes, we do. And I'm going to be really rude here, Rick. There's an election coming up in 2026, I believe. So next 2 years, you're on the spot.
Been on the spot for the last 2 years too. It sure feels like it. I mean, look, June 2026 will be the next one, and look, I'll tell you that I'm that's out there, but for me, the priority is the getting things done, because can't go back to folks and say, hey, support me again if that's the decision that's made, without having delivered for the community. And so that's going to be my priority. We'll let the politics come when they come, but it's coming up to halfway through this mandate, and it's been. I mean, look, I think again in this world we are post-COVID, whether it's the healthcare we were talking about, whether it's the economy and inflation, which has been a big challenge for families and communities and governments, or the housing challenges, on and on and on. It's a heavy agenda, and so I've been very pleased with. The tone around our team in caucus is to be focused on that agenda and get things done, which, I've been very, very pleased with the scale and scope of the announcements and the commitment to things. Have we been perfect? No, we've made mistakes and happily had the, frankly, courage and humility, in my view, to change those and go back and say, no, we messed up. We're not going to do that. And so let's focus on what needs to be done. So there's lots over the next 2 years that will continue to need to be done. I'm hopeful on the economic side that we see interest rates start to drift down, and the cost pressures that have been a big challenge for families and for communities and for governments. Hopefully those continue to ease. And so I'm hopeful and optimistic over the next while we see more tangible outcomes in that respect.
It's interesting you mentioned that, Rick. I was just looking at the most recent monthly data from CMHC, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, and their longer term. When I say longer term, we're talking next 2-3 years. Suggestion is that things will improve in 2025 and 2026. That we will see a decline in interest rates, and I hate to say it, when a house is well into six figures and might be seven, more affordable. But they're optimistic, reasonably optimistic. I mean, the feds are not always optimistic, but they seem to be reasonably optimistic that things would be improving. Do you think is that your hope as well? I mean, you're the financial guy. You were with Minister Bethlen Falvey, but is that your hope as well?
It certainly is, and we've been. I reflect back on. I remember when Margot and I bought our first house. You talk about interest rates. We had a mortgage of 10%, which, even at the time was better than some others and whatever, but compared to what the rates were, we said, wow, it was the rates were higher. But the big difference was we were only paying $212,000 for the townhouse we bought. And that is what's fundamentally changed, is the numbers have skyrocketed. And I'll never forget, we've got 3 boys in their late 20s, early 30s. And when COVID first came on, I said to them all, this is great. This is a housing opportunity because prices will come down. well, oops, exploded. And this is so tough for the generation. You know, us boomers, we were able to go in and get housing and whatnot, and it was a big focus what we did, and the affordability just isn't there now that we were lucky enough to have. So having these rates come down, and that is why it is our priority as a government to get 1.5 million homes built as well, intensify the housing in our municipal communities so that the housing options will be more affordable for young Ontarians. And so we're going to keep doing that, because you're absolutely right. It's going to get better, but still a big challenge, and we'll keep working on that area as well.
Well, for sure. I just look at around Durham. There's 2 new subdivisions going in there. Dundalk is unrecognizable with the number of houses that are there. Shelburne, out of your riding, but yeah, I'm sure you drive through Shelburne all the time. It's unrecognizable from even a few years ago, and the city here is saying there's 4,000 homes units authorized to be built within the city of Owen Sound. Now we're just waiting for the shovels to start moving. We'll see.
Exactly, and you're absolutely right. All those communities you mentioned, and things that will continue to evolve, because economic development, which has also been a big priority. I mean, we just heard the announcement by Honda for a major investment in the electric vehicle and battery industry, and down in their Alliston plant. And so, look, when I leave Monday morning to go down to Queen's Park, I'm leaving my home about 4:30 in the morning, and one would think, oh, you'll have the roads to yourself. No, it's amazing. When I go out to turn down on Highway 10, I'm often waiting there for a little while, because the amount of traffic and so these communities that you mentioned, there's a lot of, Dundalk over to Alliston or Brampton or otherwise, there's some commutes happening there that as a result of the economic development. And so having the housing in this community has been part of the result there, and having that demand. So that'll continue. And, we're going to do whatever we can to kind of help enhance that affordability going forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was talking to someone recently who was reflecting on the changes that had occurred in the community they were living in. It wasn't Owen Sound, but what they were seeing is people moving into their community from Georgetown, from Brampton, and it's just people moving out of the GTA. And so our area is growing, but it may be in ways we don't quite grasp yet.
No, it's right. And people, this is, we've been somewhat discovered, if you will. And look, hey, I'm one of those folks. Margot and I moved, this became home in 2011 for us. And we just absolutely love it. And as others discover the great community we got here, they're saying, yeah, I want to be there too. And so that's part of the evolution, and where the population is growing in the province very rapidly too. We've got to meet those needs, not only for housing, for healthcare and education and everything. So a lot of evolving change, and we'll continue to try and work on that to meet the services for the community. But yeah, we're in an ongoing changing world, that's for sure.
Now, I was looking at the announcements that were coming out over your name or under your name, and there was one that caught my eye, and that's for Habitat for Humanity Grey Bruce, who received a Trillium Foundation grant back in 2023, which helped Habitat do critical repairs for member families of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation. And that's a really important factor. So it's good to see that kind of money being spent to support the work of Habitat for Humanity.
I totally agree. And one of the great pleasures I have and privileges I have of being the MPP for Bruce-Grey-Owen Sound is to go around and see the Ontario Trillium Foundation grants that have been made and are being made in the community. And it's a great privilege to see that. And what I love about it is seeing firsthand the organizations that are so active in the communities and doing such important thing. And that sure includes Habitat for Humanity, Grey Bruce. Their work is absolutely amazing. And the difference they have made, I've been to a few events and announcements they've made and the impact they have on the families they're building these houses for is absolutely extraordinary and life altering for those folks. And so it's tremendous service. So I was thrilled to see that them getting ongoing support to help their business. And the other thing I love about what they do is I was at the announcement recently, and there's a fellow who's, an apprentice through there and learning with skilled labor partners they have. So it's a fantastic skills development environment for young folks too. So not only, of course, the houses get built and change the lives of families, but you're also changing the lives of others, getting into these professions, working with the Habitat teams, and hopefully going on to great careers in their own. And so it's great to see all elements of those funds being put to such great use.
Yeah, the military calls it a force multiplier, where you provide a van, but that allows the organization to do more, and so it becomes a real asset to the community or to the organization and their mission.
Yeah, totally agree, and it's great to see it happening there and all over.
And if anybody any organization wants to find out about Trillium grants, they just need to go to the webpage for the Trillium Foundation, and it's all there.
Well, and it's a great point, and I've encouraged whether it's Legion branches or other organizations to tap into this, because the Trillium Foundation, it is fantastic. The volunteer team that's there assessing all these proposals and identifying the ones that they can support. But thank you for mentioning it. It's great that organizations have that opportunity to see if there's funding available.
Absolutely. Now let's bring this back to you again. You changed jobs and you didn't tell us. Last time we talked, you were the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Finance, Mr. Bethlenfalvy, and now you're not. What happened?
I am not.
Did you get fired?
Well, I prefer not to think of it. There was a big shuffle of parliamentary assistants, and so I've moved from. And it was great to be with Minister Bethlenfalvy for the last 2 years in the role of finance and policy and whatnot, and now I've shifted over to the work with Caroline Mulroney, the president of the Treasury Board, and so still in the numbers world, but it's a different focus and whereas finance is more policy related in the work I was doing and setting the budgets and fall economic statements. Treasury Board is more in I'll call it in the weeds, if you will, reviewing specific funding allocation proposals, ongoing spending priorities from various ministries. And so that's what I'm doing now. It takes me back a little bit to where I started my career last millennium as a chartered accountant a long time ago. But this is really, it's the kind of thing you don't hear about in the media, but it's the important ongoing operations of government. And so I'll be in that role, which I'm excited about and have enjoyed to date. And look, I think as well, for us as we've been through this period here where governments needed to invest very, very heavily in all elements to get through COVID and post-COVID, et cetera. And the amounts we're investing in infrastructure and program support, very, very important. Well, as interest rates, flatten and start to come down, as cost pressures come down, this is an opportunity for us to take another focus and say, okay, look, let's be mindful of the tax dollars that are being spent. Let's think about the younger generations that have to bear the cost of this debt that's going up. So let's go and look carefully at the programs that are already there. Are there opportunities to trim some spending if needed? If programs have a different focus than they did when they were established, can we look at those? So that ongoing financial management, which is there today, I think I'll see that more in this role. And it's the kind of thing I think we absolutely need to do. Look, we got a $9.8 billion deficit in the last budget announced, and that's something that you'll hear Peter Bethlenfalvy say, we got to get that down to balance. And so that's my role in the Treasury Board world will we'll be able to look forward to, doing some of that work to help that happen.
Now, does the job come with a green eye shield and a pencil sharpener?
No slide rule either. Had to have to provide them myself. But
Yeah.
it's a great team that Treasury Board have met so far, and they're very, very much into. They have a broad team that looks at different ministries, what they're doing as much as possible, and yeah, we roll up our sleeves, and I'll have to get some of my old accounting stuff out, but I've enjoying it so far and look forward to continuing that work.
Good. And the parliamentary assistants are kind of like the I don't want to say ministers in training, but you're the support behind the minister, because if there's an announcement to be made and the minister can't be present, you get tasked. And
Yeah.
you're at the table too, aren't you?
Well, in this particular, yes, that's right. I mean, you're at the minister's table at finance. He had his team around the minister's office and with officials, and I'd be there with them for the files I was involved in. And that's certainly the case for Treasury Board. In fact, there's a cabinet committee that I attend now when those decisions are officially being made. So, yeah, I mean, look, it's a support role for the ministers, and it's fantastic working. I've been very lucky to have worked with Peter Bethlenfalvy. Caroline Mulroney is fantastic. She's very hard work, gets into the detail, and working with her has been terrific, and look forward to continue it and adding help wherever I can.
Yeah, and Minister Mulroney is not one of the. She's a minister, obviously, but she's not one that makes the headlines. She's not we can say her father's passing was probably the exception, but she's not one like, Mr. Bethlenfalvy is a good example, or Mr. Calandra, or one of the other more significant ministers who gets a lot of headlines. You don't hear a lot about the Treasury Board.
Well, precisely. It's not a headline type of activity, but it's such an important part of it. And she's, again, so very, very fully involved in this, and an intensely hard worker and whatever. But so we're not out to get the headlines. We're out to do the productive work of the management of government. And Caroline was a Minister of Transport before, and in previous mandate, I think Attorney General, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, in this role, she's terrific, and like I said, very, very much in the detail and asking lots of questions about the operations of government. But that's the it's not the headline grabbing stuff, but frankly, in the long term, that's what it's about too. Because if we are only looking at headlines and neglect the operations, well, then that'll lead to other headlines, which are not good ones typically. And so, no. And so presidents of Treasury Board don't typically get lots of, but that doesn't matter. They're doing really, really important work in the functioning of governments.
Now, you were involved in government finance in your earlier career, were you not? That was your when you were in private industry, that was one of the things that you did. You're on the other side of the table now.
Very true. In fact, so yes, I was involved in government finance and infrastructure development and some privatizations back in the 90s. And one of the fellows who leads the Ontario Financing Authority was there when I was doing the work on the other side of the table. So it's been terrific to see that, because the role, and this is again something that doesn't get a lot of profile, but in order to make the finances of the province works, there's a whole amount of debt issuance that is done to pay for the new spending, to refinance debt instruments that are out there already. And so I was part in that part of my career, seeing that and helping the province of Ontario at the time with its financing activities and whatnot. And now to see it on the other side and how the numbers get generated that needs to be financed has that needs to be funded is really a great opportunity and a privilege for me to see. And also, I will say that work helps me knowing that the challenge is that if the province of Ontario goes to issue, long-term bonds in significant number, and if they can't get the funding done, then the debt costs more. Or literally, if they can't get it done, then you have to have severe cutbacks. So making sure you have a good financial story to tell the market is a role that I'm in now, and I reflect back on seeing it from the other side. And okay, what's the story, province of Ontario? How are you doing in managing your numbers? Are bondholders going to get paid back in 5, 10, 30 years when they buy the insurance, et cetera, et cetera? So it's been nice to see the other side of the job.
Do you think that your career in government finance or finances in general has come full circle then?
Well, it's funny. And this is, I don't quite know where this whole involvement of the public sector came from. I mean, I was my father and mother were involved in the political activities, and oddly enough, and when I was in elementary school in grade 3, there was a election for mayor of grade 3, and I ran. I didn't win then, but oddly enough, who does that? And then in grade 7, I was a page in the legislature with Bill Davis as premier and on, and worked in Ottawa for Michael Wilson as Minister of Finance for 4 years after my accounting. And then when I went into banking, it was a public sector focused role, and then to the Omer's pension plan and public infrastructure. So this has always been part of what I've had an interest in doing. So I'm very, very privileged to get the opportunity to be in a government in a direct role now, and doing it from a different perspective. So it's been great. Listen, this is it's heavy work. It's and as well, I will say that,
Rick, I have to cut you off because my producer is telling me we're out of time. So I don't mean to be rude, especially when you're starting to reminisce. That's great. But thank you for spending time with us today. We will talk again, absolutely, and we will looking forward to hearing more of government activity in Queen's Park. I'm David Shearman. This is Politically Speaking. And yes, we will talk again, friends.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
After a night out with your friends, not having a plan for a safe ride home can leave you in a bad spot. You could end up riding in a police car, an ambulance, or a hearse. These unplanned modes of transportation can be